Imagine stepping onto a football pitch carrying not just the tactical instructions of your manager, but the crushing weight of a bleeding, humiliated nation. Imagine facing the very empire that had just defeated your country in a brutal, real-world war only 4 years prior. And then, imagine defeating that empire not through raw physical dominance, but through a display of pure, unadulterated street cunning and divine athletic genius that would forever divide the sporting world into those who called it cheating and those who called it art. This is the story of the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal in Mexico City, a match that transcended sports to become a geopolitical soap opera. At the absolute center of this historic storm stood a singular, chaotic figure, Diego Armando Maradona, a man who grew up in the brutal, unforgiving shantytowns of Villa Fiorito, where survival meant outsmarting the system, and who brought that exact same street gang mentality to the grandest stage in human history to pull off the ultimate, unforgettable heist against the English establishment. To understand the sheer toxicity and high stakes of this match, one must look beyond the football pitch to the freezing waters of the South Atlantic Ocean. In 1982, just 4 years before the tournament, Argentina and the United Kingdom fought a brief, intense, and bloody conflict known as the Falklands War. For the Argentine public, the war was a national trauma, ending in a crushing military defeat, the loss of hundreds of young lives, and a deep sense of collective humiliation inflicted by the British Empire. When the 1986 World Cup draw placed Argentina and England on a direct collision course in the quarterfinals at the iconic Azteca Stadium, the match was instantly stripped of its status as a mere game. The Argentine players publicly denied that politics played a role, but behind closed doors, the locker room was vibrating with a fierce, vengeful energy. They weren't just playing for a semifinal spot, they were playing for national redemption. They wanted to inflict pain on the nation that had broken their pride, and Maradona, their captain and tribal leader, understood this burden better than anyone. The first half of the match was a tense, claustrophobic war of attrition. The English team, packed with disciplined, physically imposing superstars like Glenn Hoddle and Gary Lineker, set up a defensive fortress designed to neutralize Maradona. Every time the Argentine maestro touched the ball, 3 or 4 white shirts would instantly surround him, hacking at his ankles and tracking his every move. The air in Mexico City was thick, hot, and thin due to the high altitude, making every breath feel like breathing broken glass. For 45 minutes, the teams traded blows, but neither could break the deadlock. The match was a ticking time bomb, waiting for a single moment of madness or magic to detonate the stadium. That detonation arrived in the 51st minute, and it would change the trajectory of football history forever. Maradona received the ball near the center circle and began a characteristic, driving run toward the English penalty area. He slashed through 2 defenders before playing a quick, short pass to his teammate Jorge Valdano. But the pass wasn't perfect. An English defender, Steve Hodge, intercepted the ball. However, in his attempt to clear the danger, Hodge hooked the ball backward, sending it looping high and deep into his own penalty box. The ball hung in the thin Mexican air for what felt like an eternity. Racing toward it from the edge of the box was Maradona, standing at a mere 5 feet 5 inches tall. Rushing out to meet him was the colossal English goalkeeper, Peter Shilton, who stood over 6 feet tall and possessed the massive advantage of being allowed to use his hands. Mathematically, physically, logically, it was an impossible contest. Shilton was guaranteed to punch the ball away. But Maradona did not operate on logic. He operated on the primal instincts of the slums. As the 2 men collided in the air, Maradona realized he could never reach the ball with his head. In a fraction of a second, with a movement so rapid and fluid it bypassed human sight, the Argentine captain raised his left fist close to his head and subtly flicked the ball over the charging goalkeeper. The ball trickled agonizingly into the empty net. Maradona instantly turned away, celebrating with unbridled joy, running toward the corner flag while casting nervous glances at the officials. The English players were frozen in absolute, blinding fury. They swarmed the referee, Ali bin Nasser, screaming, pointing at their eyes, and mimicking a handball. Shilton was red-faced with rage, shouting that the tiny Argentine had literally punched the ball into the net. But the referee, positioned behind the play and blinded by the sun, looked at his linesman, who had failed to see the infraction. The whistle blew. The goal stood. Diego Maradona had just committed the most audacious, high-profile act of deception in human history, right in front of 114,000 screaming fans and a global television audience of millions. What happened just 4 minutes after that controversial deception would secure Maradona's status not as a mere villain, but as a mythical, untouchable deity of international sports. The English team was still vibrating with residual rage, their focus shattered by the injustice of the opening goal. In the 55th minute, Maradona received a pass from Hector Enrique inside his own half, a full 60 yards away from the English goal. With his back turned to the opposition, he was immediately pressured by two English midfielders. What followed over the next 10 seconds would be voted the goal of the century. With a majestic, lightning-fast pirouette, Maradona escaped both defenders in a single movement. He exploded forward into the open space, the ball seemingly glued to his left foot by an invisible magnetic force. As he crossed the halfway line, the English defense scrambled in sheer panic. Maradona accelerated, slicing past Peter Reid and Terry Butcher as if they were stationary training cones. He approached the edge of the penalty box, where defender Terry Fenwick tried to hack him down, but the Argentine genius simply skipped past the challenge. Finally, he found himself one-on-one with the colossal Peter Shilton once again. As the goalkeeper committed himself, expecting a shot, Maradona executed a sublime, deceptive body feint, leaving Shilton sprawled helplessly on the grass, before calmly sliding the ball into the empty net. He had bypassed the entire English empire by himself. If the first goal was a display of low-level street cunning, the second was a manifestation of pure, divine athletic perfection. In a span of 4 minutes, Maradona had shown the two opposing faces of humanity, the devil and the god, combined in a single body. Argentina won the match 2-1, and they would go on to lift the World Cup trophy after a thrilling final against West Germany. But the post-match press conference in Mexico City would seal the immortality of that afternoon. When cornered by a pack of aggressive British journalists demanding that he admit to cheating on the first goal, Maradona smiled a wicked, knowing smile and uttered a phrase that became an instant cultural phenomenon. He stated that the goal was scored un poco con la cabeza de Maradona y otro poco con la mano de Dios, a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God. It was the ultimate psychological victory. He refused to apologize. To the Argentine public, it wasn't cheating, it was poetic justice. It was a clever, bloodless revenge for the lives lost in the South Atlantic, a proof that the small and the poor could conquer the mighty through sheer, unapologetic wit. To this day, the debate over that afternoon in 1986 still rages fiercely across the football world. To the English establishment, Maradona remains a deeply flawed villain, a symbol of systemic corruption and unpunished deception. But to the rest of the world, he remains the ultimate romantic anti-hero. A man who proved that inside those 90 minutes, strict rules can be outsmarted by street instinct, and that sometimes a touch of human cunning is exactly what it takes to rewrite the history of the world.